Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets Podcast Pioneer, with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. Good to have you here. Thank you so much for your loyal support. We have been doing this for 9.5 years. Couldn't continue to do this without you. And you challenge me each and every time we create an episode for you to think beyond the bays, think beyond the shop, and reach out into the world of life. And this is a great example of this show that we have. I'd like to introduce you to Krystal Zellmer. Hello, Krystal.
Hi, Carm. Excited to be here.
Thank you, Vice President at Klemmer. And Klemmer is a leadership and character development company. And God, I'm a character. Maybe I need developing.
I'd suggest everybody can use a little development. Character, leadership, personal, however you do it, get in the room, right?
Krystal is the daughter of the founder, Brian Klemmer. She's a transformational facilitator in experiential. Did I say that right?
Experiential, yeah.
Experiential leadership training and current facilities at multiple levels of the organization. You do a lot of cool stuff. And you were on with my friend Dave Shadeen, an episode, Town Hall Academy 390, Actionable Tips for Enhancing Self-Awareness. And we're going to continue to talk about self-awareness with Krystal because this episode is going to be focused, everyone, on additional information that support or grow your self-awareness, managing your emotions, your mental state, your strengths and your weaknesses. Oh, that's all that soft stuff, Carm. Stay away from that, please. It's important to grow in your family, your business, your team. I know it can help you. It can help you make better decisions. And stop me if I'm wrong, Krystal.
Yeah.
Be more confident.
Yeah.
Build relationships and improve communications, among so many other things.
Absolutely. And it sounds like we're talking to the kind of people, or at least from some of our prior conversations, to people that want to enhance the bottom line. Like at the end of the day, the people that are tuning into your show want to create more finance or build their business bigger and serve more people, employ more people. If that's your aim, there are some skills within self-awareness that'll get you to that point. It just doesn't look like A plus B equals C, and really A equals C.
Cool. Sounds like a little algebra that I need to study up on.
You know.
Love that. A equals C. But you don't do this alone. And I think that's what people have to realize, Carm, this is a heavy lift. We've listened to some of your shows and I just can't get out of the rut that I'm in. Okay. You'd probably need some help.
Yeah. Well, the hardest person to assess most of the time is ourselves, because we've been buying our own baloney for decades. And you've all heard us on the podcast talk about the man in the mirror. It's usually typically the problem of you getting out of your own way. And one of the things that I realized a long time ago, Krystal, I went to a seminar and they said, "Oh, you think your people don't know what your problems are." Yeah, totally. And you're not hiding it that well.
That's right. You don't. You think you are, but you don't. And I think that's a revelation. If you could start thinking about that, your perspective on helping us realize that, oh, my people know that I'm kind of strong in this area and weak in that.
Absolutely. I mean, just reverse the roles. If we begin to look at it like the people that we walk through life with or we're clients of, you know what's going on for them. They're not hiding it as well as they think they are, which means if you reverse that same thought process, you're not hiding it as well as you think you are.
Yeah, I get it. At the end of the day, what is our deepest intention of your business in our life? Do we have to look in the mirror? Do we have to write that down? Do we need to get to an emotional intelligence seminar? Because emotional intelligence has everything to do with self-awareness.
Yes.
And maybe I'll tell you the story, maybe in this episode, of a 5-day EQ class I went to.
Ooh, I would love to hear that story.
Maybe a little later, I'll tell.
Okay. I'll be ready for it. And
but,
yes,
you know, our deepest intentions to grow and change our business. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think most people think that they want something different, right? And they'll say, well, I want to increase sales, or I want to hire and keep better people, or I want to manage my systems better, or I want to create more cash flow. And knowing all of that is super important. And what you want has nothing to do with what you actually create. Your most deep, passionate commitment, that's your intention. That's the thing you're actually going to create. Not what you want, but your deepest commitment is what you're going to actually create. So for me, my definition of intention, or as a company, our definition of intention is your deepest, most passionate commitment. If you begin to isolate what you're actually committed to instead of what you want, that's when you'll identify what's actually driving you versus what you thought was driving you. So people say all the time, well, I want to hire and keep better people. And what they actually, when they boil it down, their intention, their deepest, most passionate commitment is actually control. That's totally different, because if your deepest, most passionate commitment is actually control, meaning your intention is to control, then you'll actually produce results that don't align with what you say you want, which is hiring and keeping better people. Once you can kind of create an awareness, a revelation around what your deeper commitments are than what you say you want, you can rework your behavior to be in alignment. And now actually your want becomes your intention.
Wow. How do I know? God, that was just so powerful. How do I know it's control? Where do I discover? What mirror do I look into? What priest do I sit down in front of?
Results. That's it. That's the key. The only thing you have to look at, you don't even have to look at your personality, because a lot of the times we don't want to look at our own personality or our shortcomings or whatever that thing is. Base everything on results. Brian Klemmer used to say this all the time. Base everything on results, often harsh, always fair. If you're basing it off results, you don't need to second guess what did you say, the soft stuff is. You just get to look at, okay, are my results actually creating like micromanagement? Can I actually count on the people that are in front of me? Those are all feelings and behaviors around control instead of around building a healthy team.
I don't want to admit that it's control, and I'm happy with my results, even if I can't pay my bills.
I mean, then at least you know that what you say you want is actually not what you want at all.
Whoa. What I want is not really what I want at all.
I mean, if you say, I'm happy with the way it is, I'm good. Because what did you exactly say? You said, what if I'm happy with where I'm at right now?
Yeah.
And I can pay my bills.
And I can't pay my bills, but I'm happy with where I am. I'm just I'm lumbering down this really rough path or patch. Yeah. But because I don't want to give up any control, I'm willing to fall over a rock occasionally.
Yeah. And I think most people would rather be right than be happy. Most people would rather be in control than actually create the next level of finances. So if somebody comes to me and they go, I can't pay my bills, but I'm happy with the way it runs, then awesome, nothing will ever change. In order for change to actually occur, people get to recognize that there is something that isn't working that could be working.
Anyone who is listening right now and you're getting ready to put the play or the pause button or the stop button, don't, because you're happy. Carm and Krystal just said, I'm happy being miserable, or I'm happy being at this particular marginal state that I'm in. And if you want to continue to go through life and wonder why you can't hire really good people or keep really good people, or that someday I'm going to sell this business, but I'm not even sure what I have to sell because I haven't built something this big. And what I want to bring home to my family and pay for college and have a really lovely home and maybe get out of my starter home after 20 years, you have to stop and you have to say, it's really all about me, maybe my stubbornness. And that's why I believe these discussions that we continue to have, I pray for this, that one or two or three people will listen to this and change their lives.
I pray for
and you do this for a living.
Yeah. And Who is it? Is it a very famous personal development saying, mediocrity is the height of selfishness?
Tim Robbins, maybe? Or?
I think it's more along the lines of Stephen Covey, but I could be wrong.
Oh.
Mediocrity is the height of selfishness, which to me, if I look at that, and it's exactly what you're talking about, because you're going, hey, your people have such a powerful position in the market to make a difference. Like, there are people being raised. I know the generation that's coming after mine is looking to be in the trades. They're looking for something better. Yep. And the people your podcast directly speaks to are the people that are at the helm of that next level change. And they could be the biggest contributors. They could be the biggest mentors. They could be, and it's going to take a willingness to admit, like, just paying my bills, I don't want to be in that rat race anymore. I want something different. I want to leave a legacy. I want to create something for the next generation of my family. And what if I could expand my vision even beyond that? And it wasn't just about me and mine. What if I was committed to 5 people that I was raising up and their families also being taken care of? Like, that, to me, produces a fire to be willing to look at myself differently than I have up and until this point. And there's nothing wrong with where you're at. I hope nobody hears that. For me, however you choose to play the game of life is totally up to you. That's the beautiful part about where we live, is choice. And what if? Like, people say what if in a negative way all the time. Like, what if something goes wrong? I'm the opposite. I'm like, what if? What if something could go miraculously right? What if you could what if you could double the finances that come into your business this year? What if you could double the amount of people you're mentoring? What if you could? Wouldn't that be incredible?
I love this change of think right now. I really do. Because what we have talked about in maybe coming out of my mouth is some of the negative side of what we see out there and why we want to talk about emotional intelligence, self-awareness. But you just lifted our whole think to the what if, to the positive what if side. And instead of saying, I'm happy being mediocrity, but what if I was able to hire that right person? What if I could move my location to a much better place and bigger? What if I hired myself a coach and that individual allowed me to become the person that's hidden inside that I keep saying I'm not, but I know that I am because I can't get out of my own way? What if maybe the whole the episode title, Krystal, is what if?
What if?
I love this.
What if?
Because what if you could make better decisions? What if you could be more confident? What if you could really discover the relationships of the people that work for you and the families that you're feeding and let that drive you? And what if you can become a better communicator? And so if you can answer yes to all of those, then maybe we got to fix your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, your ability to be.
And now you have a passionate driver that's different. No one changes until they realize the price of not changing is too high. Brian Klemmer used to say that all the time. No one changes until they recognize that the price they're paying for not changing is too high. But if you can take that and turn it, and you have a 1-year plan or a 5-year or something that's pulling you into this, life could be different. What if you could spend a weekend away with your family and away from your business and away from all of those things because you trusted that you had raised up leaders within your business that could handle it? Now you have time freedom, financial freedom, and all of it turns back to the man in the mirror.
Wow. You know, you just said the price you pay for being successful. Your dad says this. What did he say again?
Yeah, he says no one changes until they realize that the price they're paying for not changing is too high.
And let me just relate that to the fact that I am down a technology specialist, someone, in the back doing the diagnostics on the car. I lost an A person, really top-notch person. And I refused to get a recruiter. I've refused to do the kind of heavy lift and write an ad and go in Indeed and spread the word that I'm looking for someone. And that's a price you pay for not replacing that individual.
Yes.
And then you have to ask yourself, why did I lose that person? It could have been a spouse moved away. I get that. But did they leave because I didn't have the right money, the career path, the culture? And, I always took work home with me, and spouse says, you got to quit there because you come home more miserable every night.
Yeah.
And those are prices that individual leaders pay for not actually improving themselves so they can improve the life of their people.
100%. Do your people want to be more like you?
Whoa, that's a heavy thought. As silence covers the room.
I'm totally all in for silence, right? It's probably not a podcasting thing, but I'm like, that's where things ruminate.
Yeah, the silence was great because I think that was a very, very heavy thought. Wow.
If they look at me and I'm a co-owner of my company, if my people look at me and they don't want my life, that's direct feedback to the way I'm showing up and the culture I've created. And not that everybody wants, I hope everybody doesn't want 100% of my life. And if there's not something within me that they're striving for, then why would they want me to follow them? Or why would they want to follow me? Wow. As the leader?
So let's talk about one of the ways that people can improve themselves, and that is to get themselves an expert or a coach to, be on their team.
Yes.
And, maybe a person like you for, that personalized coaching thing, but from the business side and the perspective of culture and KPIs, accounting, marketing, there are misconceptions about the coaching world. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the misconceptions is that a coach is going to just tell you what to do. And as a business owner, I don't want somebody walking into the doors of my business and telling me what to do when they don't know anything about the day in, day out of my company. Now, that's a misconception, is that a coach is just going to tell you what to do. I think in reality, a really great coach asks a lot of questions to find out what is happening within your culture, your organization. And all of those questions, all they're doing are putting up mirrors. Every question is like a mirror. Hey, did you look here and what angle are you seeing? Because you might not see back here. I can't even get can you see this and what's happening back here? And for me, the whole point of coaching is to allow you to see more of a 360 experience of what's happening in your organization and what's happening for you as the leader. And when you can see holes that you didn't know were in your boat, so you can potentially fix the ones that you see that are causing the most damage. And then you can leave the other ones that you don't think that the price, this is back to prices and benefits, right? That you don't see enough of a price that you don't need to fix that thing. Then you're actually at choice as the client. You're not just being told what to do to better your business. You're actually at choice of, here are all the things that I'm seeing that may or may not be working. What do you see? And if you as the client can actually see 360, now you have way more information to make the kind of choices that could potentially skyrocket your company.
Yeah, I love your point. And if you're paying for a coach, let's just say it's a monthly thing that you're paying and you don't believe you're getting your money's worth, then you can move on. And I think there's some great coaching arrangements out there that say, listen, if you're not happy with me, I don't want you to go on.
Totally.
But I love your point about a real good coach probably won't tell you what to do unless you ask for that help, number one. Yeah. And a really good coach, in my opinion, would be asking a lot of why questions. Yes. I mean, why do you feel like this? Why is your business not performing to this degree? You've come to me because you are at a crossroads. Why are you there? And a lot of times when you even, do some introspective and try to find your own self-awareness and dig down deep inside of you, because I guess the commitment to be more self-aware allows you to get a coach and not be afraid of it.
Totally. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Because that is one of the number one dictators of a great leader.
Yes. The NAPA Now event is a national ownership workshop for our valued AutoCare members centered around business building training from industry leaders. Now, it's not just about owning a shop, it's about owning your future. Join NAPA April 15th through the 17th, 2025 at the Venetian Resort in the heart of Las Vegas, known for its vibrancy, energy, and entrepreneurial spirit. At the event, ignite growth through business building masterclasses from leaders across multiple industries focused on expanding business opportunities. Now, masterclass topics include future-proofing your business, mastering emerging technologies for growth, leadership dynamics, inspiring, engaging, and driving success, shifting tides, understanding evolving consumer behaviors and your bottom line, and young leaders' lasting legacies, mastering succession planning for future growth. Foster collaboration with other like-minded NAPA AutoCare members and store owners. Stop at supplier studios for training, visit AutoCare vendor partners, and finally, join us in celebrating 100 years of NAPA Auto Parts, along with kicking off the next 100 years of partnership. There will also be exclusive giveaways. There are many incentive opportunities to offset the cost of this trip, including AutoCare program earnbacks, and beginning in October, earn up to $1,500 with pre-show supplier training to prepare for the supplier studio training sessions. The NAPA Now event is a national ownership workshop for our valued AutoCare members centered around business building training from industry leaders. Now, it's not just about owning a shop, it's about owning your future. Join NAPA April 15th through the 17th, 2025 at the Venetian Resort in the heart of Las Vegas, known for its vibrancy, energy, and entrepreneurial spirit. Get ready to grow, connect, and celebrate. This is an exclusive event limited to the first 2,000 AutoCare members. Packages are going fast. If you're interested in attending, contact your servicing NAPA store or NAPA salesperson. In the coaching world that you're in, or the facilitating world that you're in, when people come to you to become better leaders, are they individual executives or are they business owners?
I actually get to work with all sorts of different people, which is what to me makes what we do very unique. I get business owners, I get stay-at-home moms, I get people who are in network marketing, I get people that are in industry. I get a little bit of everything. Generally speaking, we don't specialize in one-on-one coaching. I know of a ton of incredible one-on-one coaches, Dave Shadeen being one of them, that I would highly recommend you go and you leverage. What we specialize in is 3-day experiential trainings for a large amount of change in a short period of time. That can happen with a coach. And in my experience, what we're doing is we're putting you in a room full of games and exercises designed to create pressure to see what comes out so that you can assess what comes out of you when you're under stress. Life tends to do the same kind of lessons. It's just the price tag is really, really, really high when it's happening in your actual life. If you can do that in a training room and examine what comes out of you, because it can't come out of you if it wasn't in there in the first place. If you can do that in a training room with us, very small prices are paid because you're not in your real life with the people you love, you care about your business. You're in a experiential format so that you can examine your patterns before you pay big prices.
Are we as a people afraid to show our emotions?
You're speaking to a really unique group of people. And in this industry, maybe. I would say emotional expression is more accepted now in society than it ever has been before. Therefore, people are more willing to. And every person is different. You might work with the DISC assessment or something along those lines. Do you have any?
There's a lot of discussion in our industry, and a lot of coaches use DISC, yes.
A lot of coaches use DISC. We use something similar but different. And for communication styles, there are certain communication styles that more readily express emotion than others. So are we? Maybe. If the cool part is, this is what I do for a living. Everybody listening responded in their head before I ever responded. You asked the question and we all talk to ourselves. Like that's normal. So whatever that person that's listening to the podcast responded in your head before I responded, that's what you want to work on, because some people went, nobody expresses emotion. which tells you that you personally are uncomfortable expressing emotion. Not good, not bad, not right, not wrong, just something that might be holding you back from the people you work with who do like to express emotion. Some people answered in their head, oh, I'm totally fine expressing emotion. Great. I'm going to have the exact same conversation with you. Not good, not bad, not right, not wrong. And if you are a switch, not a dial in terms of your emotions, then you could be surrounded by people who are not comfortable with emotion, and your willingness to surge emotion might be causing just as much disruption as somebody who's unwilling to show any. It's all about, are you honoring the people in front of you, or are you more committed to the way you want to operate? It's Brian Klemmer, I quote him all the time. It's really hard to recognize other people's needs when we're knee deep in our own needs. And if we're only operating out of our needs, how we like to communicate, how we like to operate in terms of our emotions, we'll never be like actually serving the people in front of us to the greatest degree we could, because it's at the end of the day about us.
This is so powerful, these last few minutes with you. And I love the comment you made. Our observation is telling.
Yes.
And if we say, no, we're not emotional, I can almost try to figure out what that person's disc is.
Yes,
I could almost
exactly.
potentially look at what their success rate is, what their net operating income is as a percent of sales. I could almost be able to tell you the kinds of people that are working in the business. And I'm not an expert, but from the outside looking into an individual who, and I don't want to say is stubborn or is set in their ways, but this whole world, and you brought it up, we're becoming a little bit more emotional because I think the people that we're working with are requiring a more intimate involvement in the success of the business and in the culture and of transparency and trust and all of that stuff. It's becoming big. We're getting to be more sophisticated. I think I just said that word, but I got this word salad going on in my mind because what you said was so powerful. And so let's stop hiding behind I'm right and you're wrong.
If we could just crush that one paradigm, you would see so much growth everywhere.
If you're watching on video and you just saw Krystal's face, it said it all. you kind of just lit up.
So many times people enter in, the number one belief system on the planet, in my experience, the number one paradigm people see life through is the need to be right. If that operate, and everybody has it to differing degrees, if it's operating at a strong capacity in your life, then you're entering every conversation with in order for me to be right, you have to be wrong. Well, people feel that, and nobody wants to be wrong, including you. If you're entering every spreadsheet into that, your every analysis, well, no wonder it would be hard to be coached, because you've set yourself up in opposition of the person you hired to help you.
So it's okay to be wrong. So
yeah, it's totally fine. And to me, if that's a huge practice, and just because someone else is right doesn't make you wrong.
Just because someone else is right doesn't make you wrong. You're 100% right with that. There's so many ways.
There's so many ways.
There's so many ways to skin the cat, to whatever those cool little sayings are, to look at a spreadsheet, to look at numbers, to solve a customer's problem. There's so many ways. We give latitude to our people because we've taught them their own self-awareness. We've encouraged them to make tough decisions, and I'll stand behind you, even though I may not have agreed with you. I stand behind you. Yeah. Now let's get into that office and talk about, what I would have done, even though you did it, and what you did, and maybe there's a learning moment here that we can share with each other. Totally. And not only does the owner or the boss, the supervisor learn from this, because just because they disagree with you doesn't mean that they didn't teach you well enough to make that decision. And that's part of not always being right, but sometimes being wrong, because maybe some of the responsibility lands on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would fight for responsibility every single time.
Okay.
So if I was in with somebody that I trained and there was any level of I apologize. I didn't give you the information you needed up front to feel like you could win. I apologize that I didn't take the time, or not. It doesn't even have to be, I apologize, right? It can just be from a place of choice. But I chose not to spend more time with you in this area of the business. I chose not to train you in what this looks like. Here's my commitment to you. We're going to sit down if it was a big enough miss, right? Like, we're going to sit down for 30 minutes once every other week to go over these same types of things so we can get on the same page and level it out. If I come from responsibility as the leader, people are craving to follow people like that. Not people that are throwing stones and all sorts of upset with them because it's my business, right? Like if I get to take, and I would fight you for my 100% responsibility, because if I have no responsibility in the situation, I can't change it. And I am unwilling to tell you I can't change it.
Got it. Okay. So I'm an individual who, according to the boss, didn't do something right.
Yeah.
And the boss tells me, when are you going to learn? When are you going to get it right?
Yeah. Well,
the individual who's getting, if you will, directed, scolded, something on that order.
Feedback.
Yeah, feedback. Will they think this person who I work for, supervisor, owner, has such a big ego, they'll never realize that he wasn't trained. He doesn't really appreciate the situation. He always wants to be right. If someone was told, coach comes in and has this new client and says, your ego is too big in order to even allow me some space in your life, to even get great people to work for you. People, they walk the other way. They're unwilling to accept it. My question to you is, how do we get up and over our egos?
How do we get up and over our ego? For me, there's two, and this is just a personal opinion, not like company platform-wide policy. Two of the hardest paradigms or belief systems to break through in my experience. Number one is I know all about it. I already know that thing. I already know what you're going to say. I already know that you're going to be I already know. And to me, that's what I'm hearing when you say ego is I already know. That's the belief system there that's driving that ego.
I see.
The really hard part about I know or I already know, and you can even self-assess your own thinking throughout the day. If you're listening to this, think through how many times you think or say, I know, in a 24-hour period, and see whether or not this is something that's actually showing up for you. If you already know, your brain actually produces a chemical that stops the ability to learn, which means you are in a place where once you go, either verbally or just in your head, I already know what they're going to say. I already know the answer. I already know. You have literally shut down your ability to learn, which means you're back in that fixed mindset, which means you can't communicate with the world in a way that's going to actually produce better results because you've shut down your ability to learn. I would come from personal responsibility, the onus is always on the person who wants change. Because you can't change another human. So if I was the employee and my boss came in and was angry, upset, or in it in some way, shape, or form, I would also come from personal responsibility. Because if I go victim to the way they're showing up and giving me feedback, they have the power over how I feel. And I refuse to give anyone in my life that kind of authority. So if I show up and I go, hey, I chose. These are the choices I made. I hear you. I hear your heart. I'm choosing not to take this conversation personally. If I make all of those choices, then regardless of how the owner of the company or the boss showed up in relationship with me, I'm still in control of how I feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. It's pretty darn heavy too. I already know. And that's resonating. Okay.
Yeah.
What if I was the high ego owner? Instead of saying I already know, if I wanted to be a softer, kinder, gentler person and get in touch with myself, what if I said, I agree with you. Let's talk about it.
Totally.
I agree with you. It doesn't mean that I really do, but I don't want this to accelerate. I don't want this to go off the deep end. I don't want to create a bad situation, something tense.
Yes.
You know, and I think it's situational. Where are we privately? Is it open to the, hey, boss, this just happened. There's 3 other employees hanging around. And he says, I already know.
Yeah.
And probably you don't say, well, I already know. No, I already know. There's always some gruffness behind it. But
Totally.
hey, I agree with you. You did the right thing for the right situation at the right time. But let's talk about it later.
Yeah. I love that. Or
that softens the individual.
It softens the individual and it cracks the pressure relief valve off of the situation. Personal responsibility cracks the pressure release valve off of a situation, so you're no longer in the heat of that moment.
I don't know if you said this, it shortens or shuts your ability to learn. And I think the openness that we have to have as leaders, and I talk about this a lot on the show, Krystal, intuition. I think intuition is a marvelous trait to have. And in my mind, intuition is like a spider web around you. There's all these pathways and reaches that you're constantly absorbing and learning things. And I think your job as a non-egotistical leader who's in touch with themselves is to be able to pull all this stuff together and find out where your leadership is needed.
Totally. And the picture I get there is, can you hear what's not being said?
Wow. Oh my. There it is. Let's go to this intuition. And it was Tom Peters way back with the 80s. He brought up the idea of MBWA, managed by walking around. And every time I think of that was an HP thing back in the day, and he brought it into his book. Oh, Carm, I don't
know the book, otherwise
I talk about it all the time. I can't believe it. I'll think of it. It'll come back to me, from Tom Peters, In Search of Excellence. Thank you. And he brought up managed by walking around. And in today's world of this fast-paced, crazy, unbelievable, vibrant businesses that we have today, in my mind, CEOs need to be out there managing by walking around, but not barking out orders, not saying, I already know and I'm right and you're wrong. Yeah, they should be out there as if you will, the centerpiece of the spider web. To your point, I love this. What's not being said.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the most powerful things, because you're starting to ask questions. And if you're not hearing what your intuition says are the real issues, then those things may be the real issues. I love that.
Well, and you might, to be industry specific, you might have somebody who made the wrong decision, because we're in this feedback loop.
Yeah.
And if you're not hearing what's being said, you might fix the mechanical part of the decision that they made, but you miss the underlying of why they made that decision in the first place. And they might have made that decision in the first place because they were concerned that a customer was going to be mad at them. Or they were concerned, or like they had this underlying driver that had nothing to do with the technical skill that you're trying to get them to change.
Mm-hmm.
And if that driver continues, then even when you change the mechanical part of it, you're still going to deal with the issue, because that's the thing that's not being said that you didn't address in the conversation.
Oof. Wow. This is so powerful. Finding your confidence by knowing more about who you are.
Absolutely.
It almost seems to me like, no, I'm not going to find confidence. No, I really do believe that if you're more comfortable in your bones, as to who you really are, and you shed that ego veil. I call it a veil because we hide behind it, I believe.
We do. Absolutely.
I don't know where this is all coming from, but it's coming from a deep part of my soul and my think that we can find confidence if we believe more in ourselves. That doesn't make us egotistical. It makes us a stronger, more emotional human being that cares more about situations and people. I'm starting to sound like Krystal Zellmer. Wow, you do great things to people when they do.
And when people are more aware, there is peace there, and there's results there, and I don't get swayed by what's coming in and out of the doors. I don't get swayed by the people if I feel solid and grounded in how I show up in every situation. We say all the time, I'm back to my dad. He wrote a book called The Compassionate Samurai, which is all about being both a results-oriented, get-it-done kind of person, and at the same time, having a heart of service and contribution. And when we can take those two things, most people have one or the other really well nailed. If you can get both in the same place, now that's how, and he says in the book, this is how you live an extraordinary life instead of an ordinary life. And it's all about living within, he deems 10 character traits of a compassionate samurai, or 10 qualities that you can count on from a compassionate samurai. If you operate out of those qualities, then it doesn't matter the circumstances that happen around you, because you're going to operate out of those qualities no matter what. So things like honor, trust, knowledge, focus, like if you can operate from those things on automatic, then you're not worried about the whirlwinds whirling, because you don't get caught up in them, because you're steadfast in who you know you are.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Let's dive into this compassionate samurai for just a moment. And let me bring it down to the level of the people that I know in the industry that they came up, in a really rough way. They had this great idea. They started to work in their barn, and then they got themselves, a 1 or 2 bay operation, and they continued to grow and make a few dollars. They just grew. Their business is bigger. And they're a samurai, and no one's going to tell them what to do. In fact, they love showing their sword. Samurais, I think they have swords, right?
They definitely katanas,
But in order for me to take my business now to the next level, I've got to find some compassion. And I got to learn about me first. You can't have compassion for other people, I guess, unless you learn about you, which is this whole self-awareness thing, right?
Totally.
Whoa.
And I think this is not making yourself wrong for operating in what it took to get you here. Like, we talk about them in terms of sunglasses, paradigms, belief systems. I love sunglasses. I think I did that on the last episode.
Yeah.
Your sunglasses are dictating your behavior. Well, you have hundreds, thousands of sets of sunglasses, some that work, some that don't work, and a lot that got you to where you are. Thank them, be grateful for them, because it took something from the business leaders you're just talking about. It took grit. It took not taking anybody's opinion to get them to where they are. Because most people, if they cared so much about people's opinion, they would have shut down. They never would have bought the first 2 bays in the first place. But they had this thing that got them to this position, and it's a good thing. But that same set of sunglasses belief system will not get them to the next level of their company. So without shaming yourself for how you showed up to get here, how about you just go, that worked really well for while it worked to get me here. And I get to shift it to something different if I actually want to double my business from where I am to where I'm going.
Okay. I'm going to tell that 2-minute story.
Yes, I'm ready.
When I went to this 5-day EQ thing, it was great. In fact, I found all the notes from that, going through, let me see, do I have to throw any of this stuff out? How long have I had it? And I thought, oh my God, I have to save that. And it was just an incredible seminar that I went to. But in order to get in touch with ourselves, the instructor said we had to get in touch with someone we most admired in our life. And he taught us all, the entire class, first of all, to get up and say, who is it that you admired most in your life that had the most profound changes on you? And please don't think of this as a karma exercise. As if you're listening to this, think of it, maybe this is something that would help you. And it was my grandfather.
I'm the accountability fanatic. So I'm going to go, if you're listening to Carmen, you're in resistance to doing the thing. Maybe that's your first action step. Take this as a challenge.
So yeah, it was my Grandpa John Capriato. And he walked us through an elevator. We got on an elevator and we kept going down and down and down through time, if you will. Not up, not sideways, but down this elevator. And it was like a 15-minute mental exercise. All of our eyes were closed and we just keep thinking about what he was telling us. And when the door opened, my grandfather was there.
They're so good.
Yeah, and it was cool to just say a few things and feel the emotion of why he factored in me. And it allowed me to know more about who I am. Yeah. It was cool.
So good. So good.
Wow. You're going to have to come back. We're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do the Compassionate Samurai part too, because I think that's a connection for many in our industry.
Totally.
Yeah, the sword's important, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be up and out and in our hand.
Totally. And the people that are like, well, I get it done. It's like, okay, I get that. And we need get it done people. And if you're getting it done is causing carnage to be left in your wake, it's not as effective as you think it is, because you're getting the end result and you're probably sacrificing greater, better, further end results than you could have if you got it done and didn't create the carnage. That's all we're suggesting. Still get it done. Just don't create the carnage in the middle. You don't have to have like you said, your sword out.
Okay. The thing that's bothering me about this great discussion that you and I had is to my listener to say, I loved it. I'm bought in. I get it. You've moved me. What do I do now? And I would love to be able to just have a discussion with you for just a few minutes. And again, it's reeling through my head. If you have an expert, a coach, an accountability partner, someone that works with you, have you asked that individual to help you with your own personal self-awareness? Or maybe you're already there. But if you're an individual that doesn't have a person, where can they go to start finding this help? They have to read books. Should they to find a counselor? What do I do? How do I get where I want to get?
Yeah. So I like multiple modalities, right? Like for me, it's don't pick just one, pick lots. Books are great. And they typically will create incremental change because they're working at the conscious level. If you actually want something that's going to affect your subconscious, that's going to create exponential change in your life. That's why we do experiential trainings. So for us, www.klemmer.com/PM. That's going to take you to a list of everywhere we do our 3-day trainings. Obviously, I love what we do. We wouldn't offer it if we didn't think that it had high level effectiveness. We also offer a money back guarantee for that same reason.
Got it. Hiring
a coach is absolutely another incredible way to get yourself into an experiential situation where you get to you're still working conversations. Some coaches take it deeper. Some stay more in the how-to range. Not every coach is the same, which is great. You want different coaches for different reasons in different timeframes of your life. So you're going to get to figure out what kind of change am I actually wanting to create, and then pick something or multiple things that are going to support you in the kind of change you say you're committed to. Coaches, books, podcasts, live trainings like we do, conferences. I'm sure your industry has trade shows and that the trade shows have multiple places where you can go and pick people that are specialty in the different areas. If you're actually wanting breakthrough in self-awareness, then go to somebody who specializes in self-awareness. Because every different person is going to have a different something that they offer. And I think it's about more is more.
Yeah. So many coaches that I know in the industry that I've talked to over all these years, I've been podcasting as the aftermarket podcast pioneer. A lot of them say that what we always need to do is to fix the client first and then the business next. And so you're hearing that from me, and you've heard this before. So if you reach out to get a coach and they visit you or they just do a deep dive on your business, stop saying the words, "I already know."
Yeah. Hold on. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Fix the client first, and then your business will fix itself. Is that the thing?
Yeah.
Fascinating. How? Well, now I've got so many questions.
I bet you do. Oh, come back. Let's do a part 2.
I'm totally open to a part 2.
Because so many times after they interview the individual and they realize that they're all knowing, all seeing, and the business is floundering.
Yeah.
And the reason that they're on the phone or they've reached out to them is because they know that they need help, but they're not sure what kind of help that they want. And how open are they going to be to their investment with this expert coming on board to guide and to hold them to account for the things it takes to run a great business. But if I already knew, well, why aren't you doing it?
Totally.
Now that creates friction, and that's not the kind of friction you want. So, people
the only way you actually know something is you can produce.
Oh, bingo. That's the answer. Absolutely right. And we've done so many podcasts on this. So again, I could reach out to my great audience, my loyal audience, carm@remarkableresults.biz. You get my newsletter anywhere on the website. You can click and email me, and I'll send you a grouping, a listing of episodes that we've done. The other one with Krystal and Dave, and so many of the other ones with the coaching that talks about this whole communication style, DISC, self-assurance. We've done a ton of them, and you just need to listen to it, and you need to let your mind go. Just like in this episode, tons of great stuff, Krystal. Thank you so much for being here. It was, frankly, I was engaged with each and every second that we've spent together here. Good. Thank you so much. Krystal Zellmer, VP at Klemmer, Leadership and Character Development Company, daughter of the founder, Brian Klemmer. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Let's do it again.
Always a joy. Do it again. I'm ready.
Thank you.